Hey guys, this is Tony. Welcome to Game-O-Rama, and today we'll be reviewing the Launchbox program that is available for download for free. This program allows you to compile all your emulators together into one program and allow you to organize all your games into one simple system that's easy to use. So I'm going to go over the pros, the cons, and just the stuff that I found pretty interesting. So let me start off on the bat. I got this because I grew interest thanks to Pat the NES Punk. He was constantly promoting it with the podcasts, and I figured I would give it a whirl. And here's what I got out of it. The system, or the program, is good, but there's a lot of issues I have with it, and a lot of things that just don't work well, especially for my taste. So, let me get across the good stuff before we get to the bad stuff, of course. So, one of the good things is, like I said, all your games are organized, and they can be categorized by console, they can be categorized by name, they can be categorized by year, all of that stuff. So, kind of similar to like Media Player in some respects. But, at the same time, you can click on the game and it'll start up the emulator with the game in it. So instead of having to open the emulator and then find the game and then put the game into the emulator, it just does it for you. And I guess that's a good thing. But that's time to get to the bad stuff. And I'm really going to be honest here. This is kind of a flaw, and I don't know if it's because of my emulators. I don't know if it's because of the program itself, but certain emulators, when you put them through that program, either don't work or will be very, very slow. And one example would be the Virtual Boy Advance emulator, which is basically the GBA emulator. The GBA emulator, it works fine, but it has like this little technical glitch startup. And it only lasts like 2 seconds. And then it disappears and the game starts up. And that's all fine and good. The NES emulator, FECUX, it runs very slowly. And I don't mean slowly as in like frame by frame. I mean like the noise is pitched down and it just feels like 10% slower than what it should be. And I don't know if that's because of the emulator. I don't know if that's because of the program. No clue. But it does that with certain games. Now, since we're talking about the emulator, one of the things, of course, you could do with it is you could run Famicom games and stuff like that. One of the things you can't do with that, but it's what surprises me with the Launchbox program, is it would not work with disk system games because you needed the BIOS for that. And to this day, I still don't know how to install that into the emulator. But the thing I can really say about it is this Launchbox, when you start up like a disk system game, like I had one that I forgot to delete, and it was in the system, and I started up, it somehow temporarily changes the game. And I don't know how to put this kindly, but I had Super Mario Bros. 2 for the disk system emulated. And when I clicked on it in Launchbox, it booted up Mario Brothers, which I thought was kind of weird. So I don't know if that's because it tried to find a replacement, a subtle replacement, or if it just got some of its stuff mixed up. Because I tried to click on Mario Brothers and it would not work at all. So yeah, with some of these emulators, it's kind of a hit and miss. With the Super Nintendo emulator, the SNES X9, it kind of didn't really work. It actually would not work. So, yeah. That's kind of one of the bad things. Back to another good thing, though. I do like the idea of using the box art. I do like the idea of having, you can, switch between the options and also have clear logos and stuff like that. That's all fine and good. It's just, here's another bad thing. They say that they can do their research through their own databases, but they can also reach out to places like Wikipedia and try to get information from there or images. They could also possibly have done it through Google or looked at some of the popular websites that would be dedicated to these types of games. Because sometimes it only came with 1 or 2 images. And in some cases, there were certain games that had no images at all. And this led to myself having to go find the images of at least the box art and putting them on there manually. And first off, doing that is pain in the ass, putting them on there manually, because you have no idea how to insert the images. It took me like a good 30 minutes to figure out how to insert the images. The fact that I had to go to the edit option and then click on the image and say add image, it was just insane. But yeah, sometimes it would have what you need, sometimes it wouldn't. What surprised me is Super Mario Land didn't have the clear logo. The Game & Watch Gallery games did not have the clear logo. But Beavis and Butthead for the Game Boy had the clear logo. And so did DuckTales for the Game Boy. It had the clear logo. It just baffles me sometimes, what goes through and what doesn't. For the Super Nintendo games, they have 3D box art. And I wish they would do that for the NES games. I wish they would do that for the Famicom games. I wish they'd do that for the Game Boy games. And another thing I want to point out is, in most 3D models, you're able to click it and drag it and move it all around to see the art. To see the box art on these, especially read the back, you have to hold a certain command. And sometimes you just wish you could just flip it, and you can't. So, I know I'm going on here about negatives, but it just kind of irks me a little. And finally, this is kind of another negative, and I know I don't know if I'm going to get flack for this, but I really wish when it came to having to get images for the program, to basically edit the information yourself, to add the images and get all that stuff, I wish they would have a cloud-like hard drive for that. Because when you get the program and you get all their files, and then you insert your own files, and then you have the games and the emulators all added onto that, it really clogs up your desktop and it makes it run very fucking slow. Which is another thing that probably could have led to what happened with the NES emulator. But what I'm saying is I wish they would have had a cloud server for user data. And the only thing you would have had to do was register in your program, register in the system and stuff like that. It would have just been so much easier to do it like that. But overall, the most I could say is this program works fine. There's a few things that, again, are just kind of nitpicks, really. If you really are interested in it, I highly recommend getting it. It does keep all your games neatly organized. It does keep your emulators, intact as well. And what I mean by that is you could just immediately start up the game just by clicking on it instead of having to go through the whole emulation process of finding the game, saying yes, this has to, this is going through to emulation and all that stuff. So it kind of makes that easier. Like I said, with those nitpicks about the storage space and then them not having enough information on certain games, mainly it came to Famicom games, which surprises me. Famicom and Super Famicom, they didn't have enough information for. It's still pretty impressive. I have to give it that. But yeah, if you're interested and want to get it. And yeah, with the exception of those little nitpicks, I still would recommend this. So with all of that said, this is Tony signing out for Game-O-Rama. I will see you guys next time. Take care, everyone. And by the way, this is the 500th video!